Hello and welcome to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. I'm Alex.
I'm Julio, and thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, head over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Help promote the algorithm and spread the word.
You can also find us on SoundCloud to subscribe and review. And don't forget to visit our main website, wearethecontrarians.com.
Follow us on Twitter at Contrarian Prime, and to like us on Facebook, visit facebook.com/Contrarian Prime.
And if you have the willpower to keep up with our pretentious ramblings, you can follow us individually at Contrarian Alex for myself and at Ovnio for Julio. That's OVNIO.
Now, time for the podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the new and improved Contrarians. All sorts of happenings going on here.
So much has happened since last time we recorded, Alex.
It's very true.
You cut your hair.
I shaved my head. I left a piece of my life in New Orleans that I'll never get back. Roman Reigns did not win. Asuka did not win. And Nakamura did not win. So the three predictions I made on here were all incorrect.
Did you lose a lot of money?
Just a piece of my soul. But
well, you know, they say you just like you let it go, and if your soul really loves you, it's gonna come back to you.
Come back to you.
Yep.
But yes, of course, as always, this is the Contrarians. You know the drill. We're right, you're wrong. My name is Alex, joined here by Julio. Julio, why don't you give us the rigmarole? What changes? What's new?
What is new in the Contrarians? Okay, so faithful listeners probably have noticed by now, because it happened, obviously, before this episode came out. We have a new logo.
We do. Courtesy
of Hans Rodgieser from the Nación Combi podcast. So all of you Spanish speakers that listen to us, check them out. And if you love our logo, which you probably do.
I do.
I do too. Well, you know, like we've been playing with an idea of that's similar to what the logo is right now. And then I sent it to Hans and he was like, okay, that's cute, but how about this?
Yeah.
And then he made it look really good.
Yeah.
So that's change number one.
And this one we don't potentially infringe on any copyrights.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you can clearly see that's a tomato, but that is our tomato. It's nobody else's tomato.
Exactly.
They can't claim.
We're not blatantly stealing the Contrarian logo any longer.
Oh, no.
Or excuse me, Criterion.
Well, my main concern now would have been like
branding there.
What if like Run Tomatoes was like, that's our tomato? No way. This tomato looks.
Well, then we can start an underground revolt and movement against it.
Yes, but also on the heels of a new logo, we did what we always said we were going to do once we got our shit together. So we have an official Twitter account. So, I mean, you can still tweet at Alex and I personally. That's fine. But some people don't want to deal with me trying to be funny outside of movies and your wrestling shit.
Yeah.
So they can just go straight to at Contrarian Prime. I'm sorry, but the Contrarians was taken and We Are the Contrarians was too long. So Contrarian Prime seemed good enough.
That works. And yeah, I changed my handle to Contrarian Alex. So.
Yes. I was touched when that happened. I was like, oh. And then also we have a Facebook page now. That's the official Facebook page for the Contrarians. Also, I want to say facebook.com/Contrarian Prime.
Excellent.
Same reasons. And you know, that way you only have to remember we're the Contrarians and Contrarian Prime, and that will lead you one way or another to where we are.
Are we going to link those to our main website?
Yes.
Okay. Wearethecontrarians.com, as always, main website. And if you don't have Facebook or Twitter, for whatever reason, you can still reach us at wearethecontrarians@gmail.com.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have something to say also that's longer than
140 characters.
More. 280 now.
Do we all have 280?
Do you not have 280?
I don't know. I probably do. I just try to keep my thoughts precise and as curse-filled as possible.
I don't know that this is like any sort of brag, like humble or not, but I felt like I was one of the first people to get the 280, which means that there was no criteria. Just like gave that out randomly.
It hit Peru before it hit the good old US of A.
I have not listed as Peruvian on Twitter. So
the government knows.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
The Twitter knows.
They're trying to make me like just it was a trap. Let's see how much trouble can he get in with 280 characters. Can we deport him now? I'm too smart for you.
But with that said, we kind of fell behind on schedule here between traveling and just things in general. We are revamped and here again new, and we are going to try to stick to our episode being dropped at the middle and end of each month. We just kind of got a little backed up here, but we are here today, to complete our two-part bridge, our filler, our Kevin Smith.
Don't call it filler.
Okay.
The guy just liked one of our tweets on
That's very true.
on Twitter.
He did like one of our tweets, and we should tag him when we post it also, just to see. You never know.
Let's wait and see what we say.
I'm still resentful we never tagged Tom Everett Scott in our That Thing You Do episode.
I did.
Oh, did you?
I did.
No, we didn't tag the one guy who never went on to do anything else.
Jonathan Sheck.
Yes.
I follow him on Twitter. He went on to be on Twitter. Actually, he plays Jonah Hex on the Legends of Tomorrow.
God bless. But, okay, so our bridge, because Kevin Smith is connecting.
Our Kevin Smith bridge.
Yes. Part 2 here. What numerical episode is this? 52?
Luckily, I can just look that up on my phone. But no, we're closer than that. Hang on.
Hold on. I'll do this in my brain. What was 50?
57, my friend.
Good God almighty.
56 was Catch and Release. Then we had the Man on the Moon bonus, and now we're at 57.
My God. My God.
Yep.
Okay, episode 57. Again, we've already advertised this. It's Chasing Amy from 1997, the third film that Kevin Smith put under his belt with little fanfare. As you said, Mallrats was kind of a big bomb, and so he was still kind of a little hot and cold ski here.
He was licking his wounds.
Yes. What was your motivation for choosing this one?
Chasing Amy? Well, Chasing Amy
is it his highest rated?
I want to say yes. It's 89% right now, and that's
88.
88.
Up to the second results here.
Okay, well, it was 89 yesterday, and today some asshole was like, "Oh no, we're gonna nugget that one more peg." Well, I mean, we'll get more into it in real talk, but yeah, definitely, if not his highest rated, definitely one of the most high rated, and I think the most beloved out of his movies. Probably, if you do like a quick poll online, everybody, regardless of how they feel about Kevin Smith, probably Chasing Amy is their favorite movie of his.
For the better part of the last 15 years since I really got into movies, rather. It's always been the one people cite when I say I don't really care too much for Kevin Smith movies here and there. They always, watch Chasing Amy.
That was me.
It was you, and this is my first time watching it. Julio came prepared. He rolled out the red carpet. We watched the I keep saying fucking Contrarian. The Criterion copy of Chasing Amy.
It was our logo for so long that now in your mind it's just intertwined.
I associate the two.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure the Criterions would be thrilled to hear.
Oh, yeah. There is... actually, this is an embarrassingly late birthday present from me to Alex. I got him I was so determined to get him to watch Chasing Amy that I got it as a birthday present to him, Criterion edition, and then I kept forgetting to bring it. So now it's
11 years later, or 11 months later.
Yeah,
we're here. So yes, we have had a recent surge of new listeners, which is awesome. And if this is your first time listening to it, thank you for being here. We really appreciate the listen.
That Summer of Travolta thing is just like
it's taking on a life of its own.
Yeah.
And also, I've noticed when we do movies related to comic book movies, especially niche ones, there'll be a influx of listens.
Oh, this is about comic book creators. So.
Well, I was thinking like Tank Girl. We usually get some new eyes around the time we do any type of.
Oh yeah, we'll talk
movie.
about like I have some Tank Girl feedback that I was not expecting. The movie is beloved by more people than I thought.
Well, that's unfortunate.
But anyway, yes. So we're about to dive into the first part of the show. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this is the longest intro we've ever had, I think, ever. But Contrarians Corner, #CC, that's the first half of the show. This is where we argue against the Rotten Tomatoes score, regardless of how we actually feel about the movie.
Again, the mission statement of this podcast is to prove that art is subjective, and we do that by, what was our original slogan? We love what you hate and hate what you love.
Yes.
So, yeah, we take a movie on Rotten Tomatoes that, be it a high or a fresh or rotten, and then make a case for why it shouldn't be that way. And then, as we'll get into it a bit further, we do have the second portion of the podcast.
Yeah, if you want to know how we really feel about the movie, stick around for the second half, #Real Talk, and that's where you'll learn our true taste.
So, yes, the first portion here, the first half, Contrarians Corner. As always, I tried to just jump right in. I got too excited with this movie.
So much to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. But Julio always kicks us off with corresponding reviews that are seen on the Rotten Tomatoes page of whatever movie we're doing.
Yes, so this one is a fresh movie. According to Rotten Tomatoes, that means that we're going to start with positive quotes. For negative quotes, just wait for real talk. And we start with Dan Webster from Spokesman Review, Washington, who says, slowly, like a latent teen pulled against his will into adulthood, Kevin Smith is growing up. But he's not growing up quietly.
All right.
It's a flair for the dramatic. Oh man, this one's even more dramatic. Bill Gibron from Pop Matters says, like a raw nerve tweaked over and over again by emotions both radiant and revealing, Chasing Amy is as close to a masterpiece as Smith has ever created. Owen Gleiberman from Entertainment Weekly. Smith isn't just fooling around anymore. All these people just floored by a movie about a guy dating a lesbian. Like, what's going on in the world? Jeffrey Overstreet from Looking Closer. An important movie about young people lost in the Gen X labyrinth who are giving it a try and risking their hearts to find some kind of answer. Peter Travers from Rolling Stone says,
Hey.
yeah, that's one of our guys.
Yeah.
It's a rude blast of gleeful provocation. A farce about emotional pain. A drama about sexual slapstick. And finally, James Rocci from Netflix. What? Well, I
This
guess
is on Netflix.
Yeah, I guess this is like a recent addition to the RT. He says,
No, it's spelled with the CKS. It's not Netflix.
"Oh, gotcha."
This was the original publication.
The oldest newspaper in America, Netflix. James Rocci says, "Indie god Kevin Smith's finest hour gets the Criterion treatment."
Literally.
Literally. I mean, he spelled Criterion with a capital C.
Indie God, eh?
Indie god. James Rocci, the only reason I recognize the name is because I actually got into a Twitter argument with him once.
Oh, really?
I did, which is so weird that he would even, I mean, he's like, I know he's a known critic. And so the fact that he replied to me, basically, I was kind of trolling him, and he replied. And my first thought was, don't you have anything better to do?
Yeah.
I'm nobody. Why are you answering me?
What was it over?
The Veronica Mars crowdsourcing, when the Kickstarter basically financed the Veronica Mars movie, and he had his panties in a bunch about it. It was like, this is wrong. The movie industry is going to hell. This is in.
It was all fun and games until Zach Braff had a crowd-funded movie.
Had to ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
That Contrarians movie you're not getting, you can thank Zach Braff for it.
There's many people you can thank for that. Okay, down to the meat and potatoes here. Chasing Amy. Main character, Holden, Ben Affleck. Best friend, Banky, Jason Lee. They are comic book artists who have a satirical comic book about stoner superheroes.
It's a ripoff of Batman and Robin, but with Jay and Silent Bob in costumes instead of Bruce Wayne and
And
whichever your Robin of choice is.
For them to, they're not even stoners themselves, so
right.
Their source material here is questionable at best.
They're very, like, literally, you couldn't think of more different authors to that creation. If it's really that Bluntman and Chronic, the name of the comic book, it's about stoner superheroes, and then you have two really uptight guys.
Yeah.
even the one that's supposed to be the wild one, it's also, he has some very he
gets like in a fight in the first 30 seconds of the movie because someone keeps calling him a tracer. But they're lifelong friends and now comic book artists, and less than 5 minutes in the movie we get an act of nepotism, and Casey Affleck gets a cameo. He is a literal child in this cameo.
This is obviously decades before his Oscar-winning turn as a man stricken by grief. Here, he's just a fan.
He even considerably aged between this and 200 Cigarettes, one of our previous episodes.
Oh, that's right. That's a later movie. Wait, what? So wait, Affleck in 200 Cigarettes is Affleck after Chasing Amy?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense.
Why is that?
Because he kind of looks like an adult in this one, and in
the goatee, man.
The goatee,
the
does
goatee
wonders.
and the sweaters.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he seems. I wrote here, Affleck in transitional Affleck, because he doesn't really look like an adult. He doesn't look like a child anymore.
No.
Right? And I guess the goatee is doing something. It's just delineating his face in a way.
He'd pull it all together 3 years later with Reindeer Games.
But I mean, I know we mentioned in the 200 Cigarettes episode that the physical changes that he goes through, and it's not like he gained weight or lost weight or something. It's just like there's something in his face, like a loss of innocence or something that just goes through. And
He's seen some shit, man.
right, but or he's a better actor than I give him credit for, because here, to me, it looks like he has sadder eyes than the guy in 200 Cigarettes. But apparently he was able to shed that in order to get into that movie. So
His character's motivations in both movies are the same. Get laid.
get laid, even like going further, get into a three-way.
They crash a panel for Hooper X, played by Dwight Ewell, excuse me, who we quickly find out is one of their friends around the city, who is a very militant black man, but it's all a facade just to sell his comics. He's actually a very laid-back, easy-going gay man.
Super gay man. He's, but it's also, I don't want to throw the word problematic around, but just
there's plenty of problematic things about this movie.
I know hashtag Black Lives Matter, was not a thing back then, but it was just this character and his inflammatory rhetoric. I mean, he's not just like a proud black man. He's a proud black man that's instigating hate against white people.
Yes.
And yes, right now we all make fun of white people that are feeling oppressed, but there's a line, and I think that Hooper X, he doesn't just cross it; he sprints away from it.
But it also brings into question because that's all just an act to sell books.
Right. On top of that, he's just a hypocrite.
Yeah.
So you could argue he's the worst character in the movie.
You could, but he also is the smartest character in the movie because he basically creates all these scenarios to play out, be it via his writing or in the friendships. He's the one that masterminds this whole thing. So he is the puppeteer. He's the smartest character.
He's the Cheney to Affleck's Bush.
I wouldn't go that far. He's much smarter than Dick Cheney is. This is where we are introduced to the muse, the flame of the film, Joey Lauren Adams, also known as not Renee Zellweger.
Yes.
Who plays...
Damn it, you stole it from me.
We didn't come up with that. She plays Alyssa Jones, who is an illustrator, or is she a story writer? I think
she's the writer.
Okay.
Right? She seems to be in awe of Affleck. There's that one moment where he's drawing and she's trying to light a cigarette, but he's talking to her like he's mansplaining drawing to her.
Pretty much. But she is a friend of Hooper X's, introduced to Banky and Holden, and immediately, at least on one side of the equation, sparks are flying between she and Holden.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue, and the movie does eventually, that the sparks were flying from the very beginning between Banky and Holden. Like Affleck and Jason Lee have...
Well, the sparks had been flying for quite some time before we came in.
Well, yeah, that's... I think that the chemistry between Affleck and Jason Lee is wasted in this movie, because really every time they were together there was just that unspoken sexual tension between them that's only barely addressed by the movie, and I really, the entire time, it was just distracting me. I kept wanting to I wanted to say, okay, Kevin Smith, if you wanted to make a movie about gay people, just do the movie about Holden and Banky coming to terms with their feelings.
Don't muddy it with this whole other side plot here.
Right, like a woman that's like gay and then she's not gay, and this is no, we're about to get into it, but to me, this is Kevin Smith's Lesbians for Dummies. And I think that maybe he would have been more qualified to write Gay Men for Dummies. Just like, he's a dude. So, make the gay movie about the guys.
Which, yeah, there's nothing wrong with the happenstantially gay male character in the movie, like Andy Samberg and I Love You, Man. Like, just a dude, just gay also.
It's like... somebody in Tropic Thunder says,
"Man, everyone's gay once in a while."
But this is where the aging comes into play in terms of maybe wasn't the best idea at the time or now. Jason Lee's character is just dropping the F-bomb like crazy.
We don't mean
not
fuck.
the fuck bomb, no.
No.
A very problematic slur that definitely during the course of my lifetime has taken on well, it always was something that had bad intent behind it, but definitely now is something that we're a lot more sensitive to.
I think it feels like Kevin Smith watched a couple of Tarantino movies, and he's like, well, he can get away with saying the N-word.
Yeah. Which, again, I don't know if anyone ever really said he got away with it. It was just, well, Tarantino's doing this.
It's Tarantino.
Yeah, but remember when Travolta was dancing? That was cool.
Sam Jackson is there, and he didn't kick his ass, so it must be okay.
But Jason Lee is not only that, but just his overall selection of vocabulary throughout the movie is questionable at best.
Well, yeah, he's just the
And it's not just, he also drops some very harsh terms towards lesbians as well.
right.
He's offending across the board.
Oh, and yet, I still think Hooper X is the worst because Hooper is smart. Jason Lee,
He's genius.
right?
Hooper X is my low key hero in this movie.
Jason Lee, he's kind of dumb. He's just played as like, well, he doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't really get why this would be offensive and all this stuff. But it also, if you get meta, it almost feels like I would just. It's the perfect trick that as a filmmaker, as a writer, director, you write yourself a character that will just say the most horrible things. And then you can just say, well, that's not me. That's a character.
It's Kevin Smith getting a bit too full of his own shit and trying to turn like an archetype of a character on its head.
Right.
Like the gross friend from the 80s buddy comedy that says anything, but it
We're
has
updated.
meaning now. Yeah.
He's going to have an arc.
Yeah. After the first meeting, they go out for a few beers. The chemistry between Holden and Alyssa is clearly there, but she ends up taking off. They play darts. It's a pretty innocent and minuscule interaction they have, leading to, I don't know if it's the next day or when it is. There's no time in this movie. It's like Vegas. There's no clocks on the walls. We don't know how much time is elapsing, where we are. We know that we're somewhere in the swamps of Jersey, between New Jersey and New York City.
Yeah, there's they keep talking about the city. So the city has to be New York.
Yeah.
Right? And then...
it's like it's a fucking chorus line.
Yeah.
We're in the city.
And then they mention the Garden State a couple times, and then you just get flashbacks to the Zach Braff movie. Zach Braff getting name dropped.
Twice.
Twice in like
More
10
than
minutes.
anyone's name dropped Zach Braff in the last 5 or 6 years. So they go out to another club where Alyssa and Holden meet back up, and Holden thinks this is it. He thinks he's sinking the deal. This is where Hooper X, again, becomes my favorite in the movie because he has the chance to tell him what's what, and he just, nope.
That is some evil shit.
Yeah.
It is clear by now. I mean, he knows that Affleck is into this girl.
Mm-hmm.
He also knows that this girl is a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just lets it happen.
Well, to be fair, to defend Hooper, he tries to tell him, and then Affleck gets this massive air of chutzpah about him. And
No, don't give me that. I mean, if I'm really your friend and I see you are about to just embarrass yourself so badly, I don't care what you're saying. I'll just cut you off. I mean, Hooper, we know because we've seen him perform. He can be loud. He can command attention.
be verbose.
Yeah. So but it's also, I put it on both of them. I mean, yes, Hooper for orchestrating it, and then Alyssa for kind of leading him on. I mean, this movie is not When Harry Met Sally, or you're like, oh, well, they were really friends and then it developed into something else.
Or Empire Records.
No, this movie, it's very clear from the very beginning that Affleck is zeroing in on her as a romantic possibility.
Oh, yeah.
It's clear to us. It's clear to Banky. It's clear to Hooper. It has to be clear to Alyssa as well, right? But instead, she, under the guise of, oh, I just want to be friends with you because you're like this super interesting guy, gets him invited to this party, and she kind of leads him on. Mm-hmm. So honestly, if you were in Affleck's shoes and nobody tells you that she's a lesbian and she's giving you these signs, right? Wouldn't you do the same thing?
I mean, yeah, it'd definitely be out of left field. I don't know.
I mean, this is the one part of the movie where I'm actually behind Affleck's character.
Well, to be fair, also, Affleck's character, as far as we know, this movie's only painted 2 interactions they've had, so he's putting some eggs in a basket pretty prematurely.
Right, but it's like, you meet a girl, she says she likes your work, she toys with you, she plays darts with you.
She does play to all of his egotism. And all,
right,
yeah.
and then she invites you to a party. It's just, up till now, I'm okay with Affleck. Now, what happens next, that's when he loses me.
Alyssa goes up on stage and sings a song. I think I read something that the actress, Joey Lauren Adams, chose that song to sing. Anyway.
Because the comparisons with Renee Zellweger were not enough.
Yeah. She should have sang Sugar High with Coyote Shivers. That would have been absolutely wonderful. It is a heavy, romantic bit of sexual thriller of a tune. And God, Ben Affleck is such a dork during this scene. It's wonderful.
White man dancing at its worst.
It's like that time you and
best.
me went to Counting Crows. Like that's what everyone in the crowd looked like. But
Except me, because I'm not a white man. So
that's true. You were just standing there nodding your head rhythmically.
I got the rhythm.
That's right.
It may not be salsa, but I can still do it.
She wraps up her song, runs into the crowd, and starts making out with this woman who I think they said was like just a former kind of hookup.
Yeah, she's just some girl that she's fucking.
Yes.
I mean, she just says it, and that's, the movie has this double standard. Again, it's kind of like Jason Lee getting away with saying all these horrible things, but then Kevin Smith saying like, well, it's just a character, guys, and that's not how like the movie feels about gay people, obviously. And then, Alyssa being really promiscuous, and but then the movie, like at an angle, kind of slut shames her. Mm-hmm. But it's like, well, that's not, that's just the character slut shaming her. It's not the movie. Yeah. Like, I don't know. You can't have it both ways.
I didn't write this. The movie wrote it.
The movie just wrote itself.
Yeah. But we do get the awesome part of Jason Lee looking around and like realizing what's happening. And it takes him a bit long. And my God, you had made the reference of Lesbians for Dummies. They could not have played on any more stereotypes during the scene in this lesbian bar of just basically late 90s what anyone would have thought of when they heard the phrase lesbian.
Right, and that is kind of like this movie in a nutshell too, because Affleck's reaction to Alyssa kissing a woman is not just like, oh, she's a lesbian, that's a bummer because that means I don't have a shot. It's like his world comes crashing down.
Well, despite what this movie may lead you to believe, all it is, if you look past that, is he got duped, and he feels he's so embarrassed, and he never thought he could be played or that any girl would ever want to turn him down. That's what you get, Ben Affleck.
Right, but it's just so weird because if she was kissing another dude, do you think that we would hold on to that reaction shot of his for so long? It's like he's in slow motion and he's covering his face and like the goatee that goes up and down. It's just really weird.
I was kind of bummed he didn't shave the next day. Just knew me. So he bails right after this. I'm sorry. This leads to their long conversation. Very, as you mentioned, Tarantino-esque dialogue-filled scene that goes on and overstays its welcome significantly.
Like, how many stories about oral sex do you need from Kevin Smith via his characters?
It's just Jason Lee and Alyssa swapping horror stories and sex injury stories back and forth, while Ben Affleck just sits there in utter dismay.
Again, it's like, how old is Affleck in this movie? Because he really... Come on. I mean, how long are you going to sulk about this? And it seems he keeps apologizing for his friend, but really, it's almost like he should apologize for himself. He's been the drag at this party.
Yeah. So after this night out and this long conversation, he bails and basically stops having communication with Alyssa. She shows up to his apartment, I should say, and calls him out on his bullshit. And just like, you wanted me, but then you found out I was gay and you completely bailed. And she just wants a friendship.
Which, come on. I mean,
Which she sets herself up for that situation right off the bat. She acknowledges that he was like smitten with her.
I mean, she like low-key acknowledges it.
Yes, and she just wants to be a temptress.
Yeah, I mean, she and then again, she builds up his ego, right? Because she's like, you're not like other men that I've met. That's why I want to be your friend. And I'm thinking, you know as much about Affleck as we do right now, because you met him at the same time that we did, basically. And I'm not impressed. I mean, he has a Batman ripoff comic book. How does that make him different from any other man? Like, they didn't have any deep conversations when they were playing darts.
No,
where I felt that they made a connection that would.
How much fucking money do they make off this comic? They have a really nice apartment.
Well, but they're. I think it's like it doubles up as their office. And
okay, so it's a multi-purpose building.
I think so.
All right,
they probably have a couple roommates we just never see.
We never go to Alyssa's apartment though. We get that one shot of her
friends,
the classic '90s static shot of a girl talking on a phone in a fucking hockey jersey.
Oh,
she's just walking around. Oh yeah, and then we do get the.
I don't think that's at her place though.
The Bridge Club later in the movie.
The Coven.
Banky has to leave to go to Boston. There's a Comic-Con there that he's going to go to and work. Initially, Holden was going to go with him, but Alyssa calls and says, my sister's out of town. I was hoping to hang out with you this weekend. And this leads to, surprisingly, our only montage of the film, just them getting closer. And as an audience member, you're realizing, much like Banky called ahead of time, this isn't going to go anywhere good.
Yeah, this is the in this montage, hidden in this montage is the moment where she falls for him. And I don't know if you saw it. I've seen this movie plenty of times.
When he takes the child lock off the lighter and spits it out the window.
Yes.
Yeah.
You tell it was like, this is it. He won her over.
I did love how much smoking was in this movie too. Outside of truly like rugged action movies these days, you don't see chain smoking in movies.
Yeah, and here Affleck's smoking 50% of the time.
Yeah, and she is too.
Like meaningful smoking too. Like,
yeah.
With like.
Oh, dude, Kevin Smith, when he has his monologue in the film, you can tell he meticulously timed out all of those inhales and exhales.
Yeah.
But we'll get to his supporting actor clip.
Yeah. Lots of Oscar clips here, much like the last Kevin Smith movie we did, like, a couple episodes ago when we did Catch and Release, and we were joking that everybody got their Oscar moment. I think here it's just everybody, like including Kevin Smith, they all get more than one. Actually, we'll hit them all.
I have written here in my notes: first act of boyhood, Ethan Hawke, Ben Affleck, because he definitely has the hair and the goatee. And I guess that would have been similar time for him also.
Then again, Ethan Hawke was from Austin. I think he would have been a little more open-minded about just gay culture in general.
Yes, that, and probably just thought more of it to be like, oh, well, I probably shouldn't go down this rabbit hole.
Ethan Hawke is smarter as far as picking roles.
He is. Well, not just picking roles, but picking love, too. If she wasn't on a train just out of nowhere, I ain't fucking with it.
Then again, we also how that relationship turned out 2 movies later, so
we did.
Maybe you just can't win at all.
Have we ever told that story on the podcast, or do you and me like binge watch those 3? Okay,
I think we mentioned it. Yeah.
Okay, that was a thing that happened, and Julio and I were forever linked from that point on.
You don't binge the Before trilogy with somebody and then just kiss them off your life. No, you're bonded forever.
You don't just leave them at the bar after that, never to speak to them again.
Oh, no.
So back at the apartment, once Banky returns from Boston, he sees how, in his opinion, how far Affleck's fallen, in love with Alyssa, and he does not take well to it. And there's really not a read on it as an audience member, at least at this portion of the movie. I thought it was just him looking out for his best friend because he knew there's no way this was going to end well. And then we get like this showdown that it looked like they were going to throw fists at any point.
That's Affleck's first Oscar scene, I think.
I think he like punches the wall and says, "It's because I love her."
I don't think he punches the wall. He just gets really close to him.
No.
And says the dramatic love declaration. Number 1.
And Jason Lee, at this point, it's still we root for him because we think his intentions are good.
It's that trick that the movie is trying to pull on you, where like you're gonna side with the bigot.
Yeah, where we think, oh, there is no devil. Holden and Alyssa go out to eat at some shitty diner. On the drive home in the rain, he pulls over and confesses his love to her. But, man.
Oscar clip number 2.
Well, I was going to say also just pin a Purple Heart on Kevin Smith for this one because pulls over, real dramatic silence, says, "I'm in love with you." Then the thunder goes off.
The thunder, yes.
Much like in our hearts.
Yes, it rumbles. And this is where the movie should have ended, right? It's like, well, not this scene, but the next one. So he opens up his heart, lets all the emotion pour out, and then she storms off.
But also this scene, man, like, I've been in this situation before where you start saying something to a girl and then you just keep talking and you can't stop, and like
you keep making it worse.
Each word more useless than the next.
Right.
Yeah.
You should have just stopped. I love you. And
done.
That's it.
Take what you want. Fade to black. We'll come to the next shot.
Diminish and returns every time you keep explaining why you love her and like all this stuff. It just.
And this goes on and on.
That's a theme for this movie. I mean,
and again and again.
If you thought that the oral sex round table lasted too long, I mean, Affleck talking about how much he cares for this girl.
Yes.
A whole storm happens. I mean, it wasn't
this
raining.
This is
when
the
they
opening scene of Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, and the Jewish people in hiding in this case, they're Ben Affleck's heart.
Joey Laura Adams just the single tear of fear running down her cheek. But of course, she doesn't take well to this, and rightfully so. Says that's really selfish and a shitty thing to put on me. But she instigated this whole situation. She created this scenario.
Well,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Even so, okay, I'll cut her some slack. Maybe she wanted friends. She wanted a friend like Affleck. Maybe she really likes the comic book, right? And he seems like a cool guy. He can play darts. And I guess if you want to give her even more benefit of the doubt, like anybody standing next to Jason Lee is gonna come out looking like a prince, right? But this is again the movie trying to have its cake and eat it, where she gets this empowering moment where she tells him off. She tells him, "How dare you put this on me, you fucking asshole!" Rightfully so. Just tells him off, walks away,
and then immediately sells out.
20 seconds later, runs back to him, starts making out with him. What
jumps
the hell?
into his arms.
Yes.
Or I think she jumps on his back, piggyback style first, and then they come back around.
And then as they're making out, Affleck just holds out his hand, like a bunch of people walking by just high-five him.
You did it. It's a bunch of people in Trump hats. You did it.
I told you she was faking it.
So they... What's the term I'm looking for here? Consummate their newfound relationship.
Oh, you're trying to be like really classy about it.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Smith was, so I'm trying to just live up.
There's nothing classy about that sex scene with the NC because fucking Affleck's still wearing his shirt and socks in the next morning.
And she's in boxers, and the apartment looks like a fucking tornado hit it.
So they wrestled a lot, and yet somehow Affleck remained almost fully
just
clothed.
Fucking tackled her off the couch. Banky returns and finds this fucking crime scene at his apartment, and we do get the awesome shot of I think he has like a chocolate milk or something, and he drops it. It wasn't in slow motion. That was a missed opportunity. He's obviously appalled at what he's seen, knowing full well where this is going, and it's nowhere good.
But then, just in case that because Kevin Smith's not done fucking with you, his reaction is like he goes outside to start perving on some high school girls, like Catholic school girls.
Ben Affleck is trying to, everything's going to be okay. Jason Lee, again, at this point, the voice of reason, knows wiser than that. Alyssa has her lesbian group of friends that I'm not really sure what they're doing. They're licking envelopes and sending them off.
It has something to do with their comic book. Because they're like, if one day we got picked up by a big publisher, we don't have to do this anymore. But it's just so weird that, I mean, the implication is that all of them are lesbians, right? And that it just seems like such a weird take. Like, it's like the 90s vision, like a straight guy's 90s vision of what a lesbian is like. Where like, well, she only hangs out with lesbians. And they just talk about lesbian stuff.
Yeah, it's not possible because that's all they're talking about is what girl they're sleeping with and things like that.
And then the moment that it's revealed that she's dating a dude is just like...
Shame!
They just brand her. It's like the Scarlet Letter.
So this movie's over 20 years old. So I wonder if Kevin Smith has learned more about the lesbian community.
Oh,
since
dude,
then.
I have a pretty awesome real talk story once we get to the second part.
But I do love that his 1997 view of it was, if you're a lesbian, all you do is hang out with lesbians, talk about lesbian stuff, and if you're not a lesbian, you're kicked out of the group.
Also, if you're a lesbian, you might fall for a guy.
Oh, we're going to get to that. That night, or again, time is not linear in this film, but whenever the next time they're laying down at night is, after she's been shamed out of her group of friends, she gives the love is love speech, and here, in like the most damaging part of the movie, basically implies that it's a choice.
It's really weird because, well, one, Affleck once again is fully clothed. They have like a clause in his contract. 'Cause these days he can't wait to take his shirt off.
No.
But back then, was he just not as
well, we got
buff?
we got Affleck ass in Reindeer Games.
So it was just like a couple of years removed from him just being comfortable with his body.
I think he was still toning.
Okay. But yeah, it just, I mean, once again, and the movie keeps topping itself as far as length for these monologues, because her monologue dwarfs Affleck's love declaration in the car.
Yes.
Right? And this is her first Oscar clip, really, where, yeah, she's like, I
thought I'd give girls a shot. That's how it works.
But, Mike Pence is right.
Jesus.
It's just a matter of me deciding that I wanted a guy.
Minus the Pence comment, that's basically the gist of what she says.
Well, yeah, back then nobody cared about Mike Pence. But if you were to remake...
Mike Pence cared about Mike Pence back then.
Yeah. If you were to remake Chasing Amy right now, and you have real Renee Zellweger giving the monologue to Josh Gad, then there would be a Pence reference.
The problem with this scene is it's not tailored specifically to her character enough, in that she's speaking in very broad strokes, and I think is a dangerous precedent to set for speaking on a subject like that, because then as a filmmaker, you're basically volunteering yourself for criticism.
Well, but then it doesn't help that
scorning, rather, not criticism.
All that leads to is Affleck saying, like, well, can I just tell my friends that you like my dick?
Yeah. Again. It wasn't surprising to find out that Kevin Smith wrote this about his relationship with that woman.
Well, this is the guy that she fell for. Like, the guy that she completely uprooted her lifestyle for is like just
lost
idiot.
All her friends for.
Yeah.
And then, can I just tell you, or can I say I gave you the good dick, or whatever he says? And she's just like, oh, Batman.
Show me that dragon tattoo again.
Is that real?
You told me about it, and I didn't go sleuthing on the internet to see what the deal was.
God bless.
He can do whatever he wants now.
It's true. Man, he was on fire after this. It was Chasing Amy, Armageddon, 200 Cigarettes, Reindeer Games. There was nothing Ben Affleck couldn't do.
The good times would never stop.
The party was never going to end. Next scene here is Jason Lee taking things a bit further to the point of becoming uncomfortable and obsessive, where he tracks down a yearbook and some friends that Alyssa had in high school and basically reveals that she was kind of a slut, as he labels her, and the story about her having a three-way in her living room with two guys.
Yeah, finger cuffs, a love story. That is, I mean, I don't like that the movie doesn't address the fact that this is a double standard, right? Because, like, as a dude, if you take part of a story like that, you'll brag about it. But then she's part of a story. She has that story in her closet, and it's just basically, other than Hooper, everybody else thinks that this is something really appalling.
Yeah.
And I don't think the movie does enough to to convince you that, oh no, it's okay. And
in a cruel twist of irony, Ben Affleck's character in 200 Cigarettes, his goal for the night was to have a three-way.
Yeah. Such a hypocrite. Affleck should be carrying motivations from movie to movie.
With not Debbie Mazar and the other girl in that movie. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. But what Hooper points out, again, him being the smartest character in this, and what, if you've been paying attention to Holden's character, the main thing is it hurts Affleck's ego. That's the most consistent thread in this story. His ego's hurt because he thought he was the only guy, and he, converted her back to, being straight type of thing. That's what's hurt most about it.
Right. So he's such an asshole. Why is she still with him? But also Hooper, I hate the movie for just giving, those insights to characters that are so reprehensible anyway, because Hooper, in that same scene, he just goes up to a little black boy and just basically instills hate inside him toward Ben Affleck just because he's white.
Yes.
And it's like, ha ha ha, we're just being funny. That kid has changed.
I did like the I don't know if it was an intentional callback, but in not Grown Ups, what was the name of that movie? Role Models. Jesus Christ. Role Models. You white, you Ben Affleck. I don't know if that was intentional, but yeah, that was really good. So Hooper just tells him to fucking get over it. And Ben Affleck, for whatever reason, can't. So naturally, he takes Alyssa out to a hockey game where tensions are running hot, and he's very unsubtly trying to prod and poke and get the story out of her.
Well, speaking of unsubtle, I mean, Kevin Smith intercuts this with hockey players punching each other, getting violent, and the violence in the rink escalates as the tension between Holden and Alyssa escalates, and it's just like art.
Yeah.
Symbolism.
Gloves are off.
Oh.
And, of course, she admits to him what he heard was legitimate, but that he was a fucking asshole for going about it the way he did, which I do agree with to a certain extent. It's not, a junior league hockey game or wherever the fuck they were isn't the place to air these grievances.
And just, and then they move it to the parking lot, which isn't much better.
Mm-hmm.
Where we get Oscar clip number 2 for Joy Lauren Adams.
Yes, where she goes on a long, rocky road of her troubled sexual past and just different instances she's had, but says she's not going to apologize for it because it was, her mistakes, her life, that type of thing.
But then she apologizes.
And she does. And I was about to say, that would be admirable if she doesn't apologize and try to make it better. And then fucking Affleck, just monumental piece of shit here, just, I want a normal relationship and we can't have that. It's like, bitch, what have you been working for the past 90 minutes?
It was like, it was cool when you were a lesbian.
It was cool when my ego wasn't bruised from all this. Oh, and of course, why show up to make a movie if you're not going to get your cameo in it? We get...
This is like a total Shyamalan cameo, too. It's not just like...
It is. This is Lady in the Water.
Right. This is, like, important to the plot.
So, Affleck is... What is the point of this transaction? He's at a diner, and...
Oh, speaking of likenesses, this is obviously a practice that he abandons by the end of the movie, but he's paying Jay and Silent Bob because he uses their likenesses in the Blood Moon and Chronic
okay.
book.
That's what he's doing. All right. Yeah, I didn't know what the cash transaction was for.
He was definitely not buying drugs.
No, they offered him some pot and he turned it down. But they're at a diner and Jay and Silent Bob show up and...
Out of a different movie.
Yeah.
This has been set in the real world and suddenly we get the pot dealers from Cartoon City.
And Affleck tells him, what's going on. He's troubled about this woman and Jay keeps... Jason Mewes, is that his name?
Yeah.
He keeps insisting, tell me who she is. I know people that know people. And he says, Alyssa Jones. He's like, oh, shit, finger cuffs. So he knows the story.
He knows the story, and it's supposed to be like, this big shock to the audience and to Affleck that she's that well known. Mm-hmm. But earlier in the movie, they've really established that all Kevin Smith movies take place within like a, 200 yards radius, mm-hmm. right? Because... When they're at the party, I think Affleck
time is not linear.
Right. Affleck and Alyssa are just like talking about different people that they know, and it's like it's Kevin Smith trying to build the MCU before the MCU happened. Where it's like everything is connected. Every movie builds off another. So he's name dropping people from Clerks and people from Mallrats and people that would probably show up in Dogma later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why would you be surprised that Jason Mewes knows her? Mm-hmm. Everybody knows everybody here.
Holden's whole life has fallen apart. He lost his girl and he lost his best friend. Basically, a residual of that was when Banky exposed all that to Holden. He just didn't want to know, and they just got in a big fight. And Banky, spun it as he was trying to protect him, that type of thing. But he's at his lowest point here when the true voice of reason, the voice you don't hear often. Yes. What's the Philip Seymour Hoffman almost famous? The only currency in this bankrupt world. Silent Bob drops, "You're chasing Amy." And, the quizzical looks of what could he be talking about. And he launches into this articulate... I was surprised we didn't get several crossfades implying that his story went over longer and longer. But a story of a girl...
Well, because that would imply that Kevin Smith would actually cut anything
showed
out.
Any restraint when making this movie.
Yeah.
Basically explains the story of this woman he fell in love with and broke up with out of his own... fear in his heart and his own insecurities, and he says ever since then he's been chasing Amy, so to speak.
Right, and it's like my first
reaction.
The girl's name was Amy. Right, my first reaction was, okay, that's cool, but that's the movie we were watching. Mm-hmm. So, okay, thank you, Kevin Smith, for spending 10 minutes telling me something that we just watched. It's like summarizing the movie as you move into the third act. You don't need that. Mm-hmm. Just get going. I was more interested with whatever Jay had to say about it because he's such a weird character that you can tell that you're on the wrong side when even somebody as outlandish as Jason Mewes kind of agrees with everybody else that why are you getting all worked up about this, right? That to me carries a lot more weight than Silent Bob giving us a very generic story that beat by beat basically matches what we just saw in the previous hour.
Taking this newfound information or this good motivational speech, this pep talk is what I'm looking for there, the verbiage. Batman takes this as an initiative to arrange a town hall meeting at his apartment with
The fucking nerve, too. Like,
I know.
Just such a white guy about the whole thing.
white privilege all the way. Banky and Alyssa, he has them meet him at his apartment. He comes up and pulls up his chair in the middle and basically says,
He just
"You're
tells
probably wondering why I gathered you here today."
I'm going to tell you what's what.
Yeah. And he shrinks the two of them, basically plays armchair psychologist and says, "Banky, your problem is you're in love with me and you're gay, so you need to accept that. And Alyssa, our problems are I can't let go of your past and, need to understand that and be more forgiving of it." So he proposes a three-way.
It's the dumbest plan in the history of dumb plans.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Speaking of Shyamalan, this is like on par with the aliens that can get killed by water coming to Earth for...
Yes. And it's not so... I'll give Kevin Smith this. At least it doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least somebody in that group had enough sense to notice that it's bullshit.
Yeah.
But the fact that it gets to that point in a way, it cheats everybody else from a more sensible, fulfilling resolution. As the audience, I hate the fact that this movie built up this conflict that was really interesting, and then they're like, well, now, for your climax, a really stupid idea that would never work.
You know what this really reminded me of was that movie Friends with Kids with Adam Scott.
God damn, that movie, dude. The last, 2 minutes? What is it that he says? I really want to fuck you or something?
I want to fuck the shit out of you. And then she says, well, fuck the shit out of me. But that's kind of what it reminded me of in terms of a really good build with just such a shitty payoff.
Right.
It's like, this is your plan.
This is the man you fell for, Alyssa Jones.
It's like he let himself get caught to further his plan, pretty much. Fortunately, Alyssa is the voice of reason.
Yeah, because Banky says yes. I was gonna say Gambit says yes.
Taylor Kitsch just comes in.
How about Jason Lee as Gambit?
That starts unbuttoning. All right, let's get to it. Yeah, Banky's in, which okay. And then Alyssa, the voice of reason's like, "You fucking idiot! No, that's not going to do anything."
I'm gonna give you a list. I'm gonna list 10 reasons why this is a terrible idea.
And she does. She very politely, more politely than necessary, lists all the reasons why it's a terrible idea, and then basically says in no uncertain terms, "This just isn't going to work." Should have said, "You're not worthy of me," but she does get the awesome, empowering moment of slapping him. Says, "I love you," and then slap. But I'm not your whore.
I'm not, okay, at least now. And because of the track record that this movie has established, you halfway expect her to turn around once she gets to the door and then run back to him.
Yeah.
I still love you. I love you too much. I can't quit you.
Banky drop trow. So we go to 1 year later. I know I made this joke when we were watching it, but I'm going to go ahead and make it again. Ben Affleck shows up as Tony Clifton to perform at the Giggle Hut.
If you don't get that joke, 1, watch Man of the Moon. 2, listen to the Man of the Moon episode.
It's another comic book convention in New York, New Jersey, wherever really they are. And Ben Affleck is in the background. He sees Banky signing, and basically, through no words, they kind of amend their friendship. Fences.
It's such bullshit because I hate that. That's such a cheap out that 1 year later. Literally, the movie is at its most interesting, at its most engaging. The characters are in a position where you're like, what happens next? What happens next, right now? I want to see that conversation after Alyssa leaves. I want to see that conversation between Banky and Affleck. And instead, fuck it, 12 years later, he has his own comic book. Ben Affleck has his own comic book, too. Okay. Was he planning on someday doing the prequel/sequel where it shows us what happened in that 1 year? Because I want to see that movie.
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
But it should at least have a couple of interesting nuggets of information.
Yeah, not really exactly what happened with Banky. Did he come out as gay? Was that all just a big misfire? I don't know.
What happens after he leaves that room? He goes into his room. Did he jerk off? Did he just think about it?
Well, we know eventually Ben Affleck became Batman. So as this
down the line,
as this movie dictates, everything works out for Ben Affleck in the end. But he goes up to Alyssa's table. She's doing a signing as well. He actually speaks to her. He has enough fucking respect for her to speak, as opposed to just miming and signing at her. He drops his new comic on her desk, says it's a self-financed one. It's called Chasing Amy, and it's literally their story put to pen. He doesn't even change their fucking names. She could sue him for defamation of character.
I mean, the dude in the story looks like Affleck, and the girl, we only see her in one panel, I think, that couple, and she looks enough like her that I think she has a solid case.
Oh, absolutely.
I wonder if that's what happened with Jay and Silent Bob also. Like that is what happened with Jay and Silent Bob, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that they made the comic, and then Jay and Silent Bob sued because Affleck says something like, how do you even know about copyright, likeness, or whatever? And they're like, oh, we know a lot of lawyers.
Yeah.
And then he makes the same mistake again with Alyssa. I hope she sued his ass.
But they talk for a while, and it's just kind of rambling and meandering, and
It doesn't accomplish anything.
no.
He's kind of like Jonah Hill's character in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Where he keeps trying to get the British,
Brand.
to listen to his tape. And he's like, he has his comic and he gives it to her. He's like, you can read it if you have time.
Did you get it?
Yeah, if you have more time, you can call me because I'd love some feedback.
But of course, the whole payoff to this is Ben Affleck, in a sense, gets the last laugh.
This final shot
Leaves her in
just-
tears, and then he walks out the door, but not before turning back over his shoulder and giving one last look of, you could have had this.
It's even more damning than that because I guess it's her current girlfriend or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that she went back to being a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, her girlfriend
play for
comes
the home
back.
team.
Yeah, her girlfriend comes back and she asks, "Who is that guy?" And then cut to Affleck giving the last look, like turning around.
She says something like, "Oh, a guy I used to know."
It's like some dude I fucked, and then just to make a point, the girlfriend would have been like, "Oh, cool,"
Yeah.
Reacted completely chill as opposed to Affleck. But no, the movie has no interest in going there.
Nope.
Instead, Affleck gets the hero walking away shot.
Yeah. And we don't know what happened to Hooper.
Right? Did he get killed?
Because it did show him carrying around a gun that was loaded with blanks, so you never know.
Dude, I mean, talk about just America right now. Can you get away with that joke? Of course not.
No. I did love, though, they said, like, you have a gun with blanks. Shouldn't these cops be out here
I'm
shooting you?
Becky's
Yeah,
wrong
coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very timely. Affleck gets the hero's exit.
Yeah, and
Round and Round by Rat starts playing as the credits start to roll.
there
No, it
is
would be Rock You Like a Hurricane. That would be the one.
the gist of, because we only see a couple panels from his comic book, but that's supposed to be his redemption, that he finally got it, which again feels like such a cheat that we didn't see that more of that. Instead, we see him.
We just find out that he
Eventually
realized the error of his ways.
Eventually, I figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm a dumbass, and guess what? You can be bisexual, I guess.
Whatever. I'm Ben Affleck.
I don't care. Gender does not apply to me.
That's basically the moral of the story. Everyone loves Ben Affleck.
And Ben Affleck can treat you like shit sometimes.
Mhm.
So be careful who you
And
love.
you'll still come running back to him in the rain.
Yeah.
Unless you're Jennifer Garner.
Oh yeah. At the very least. Oh yeah. Respect.
It's on her birthday, too, so gotta give her a shout out.
Yeah. As we record, not as we deploy
No.
this. But yeah, I think we're ready for real talk.
I would agree.
Unless you have some more snark to throw this way.
I do not.
All right.
Come on. That's a bunch of horse shit. Lando Calrissian was a black guy, you know. He got to fly the Millennium Falcon. What's the matter with you?
Who said that?
I did. Lando Calrissian is a positive role model in the realm of science fiction fantasy.
Fuck Lando Calrissian, Uncle Tom, nigga. Always some white boy gotta invoke the Holy Trilogy. Bust this. Those movies are about how the white man keeps the brother man down, even in a galaxy far, far away. Check this shit. You got cracker farm boy Luke Skywalker, Nazi poster boy, blonde hair, blue eyes. And then you got Darth Vader, the blackest brother in the galaxy, Nubian god.
What's a Nubian?
Shut the fuck up. Now, Vader, he's a spiritual brother, you know, down with the Force and all that good shit. Then there's Cracker, Skywalker. Gets his hands on a lightsaber, and the boy decides he's gonna run the fucking universe. Gets a whole clan of whites together. And they gonna bust up Vader's hood, the Death Star. Now what the fuck do you call that?
Intergalactic Civil War?
Gentrification. They gonna drive out the black element to make the galaxy, quote, unquote, safe for white folks.
And Jedi's the most
Insulting installment. Because Vader's beautiful black visage is sullied when he pulls off his mask to reveal a feeble, crusty old white man. They trying to tell us that deep inside, we all wants to be white.
Well, isn't that true?
And now we're entering Real Talk, where we actually tell you how we feel about the movie for reals.
For reals, hence the name. Yeah, this is where we break down. I always go through a little list of stats here. For example, Chasing Amy was released on April 4th, 1997. Budget, a very modest budget of $250,000. Box office of $12 million. That was pretty plain. I'll usually have more stats than that, but it was pretty bare bones for Chasing Amy here.
Well, I mean, the thing is, with Chasing Amy, as with, I think, every movie Kevin Smith has ever done.
Oh, yes, written and directed by Kevin Smith.
You can kind of do the deep dive into the lore if you just kind of like listen to Kevin Smith's commentaries or ask him about it on Twitter, which takes me to that moment I referenced earlier when you asked, I wonder how Kevin Smith feels about it or how his world has expanded since then or whatever. And it was funny because I think maybe 2-3 weeks ago, a girl I follow on Twitter, she tweeted that she was going to watch Kevin Smith's Chasing Amy. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I have a hard time believing that this is actually as good as everybody says. So I'm going to be live tweeting with it about it or something like that. And I guess somebody saw that and sent it Kevin Smith's way. And then Kevin Smith replied to her directly. And he's like, hey, that's cool. You're going to watch the movie. Just, keep an open mind. Cause that was like 20 years ago. I was like a 25-year-old that was, I think he put it like, he said, I wasn't woke, but I was trying to be or something, which I thought was really cool, you know? And then she replied, was like, okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind. It was like really friendly. And then the internet happened and a bunch of Kevin Smith fans just got really ugly with her and started just tweeting nasty things at her, just judging her or whatever. And then she just tweeted again. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to watch the movie because it's not worth it. And I'm like, that's a bummer because I really wanted to get her take, to see somebody hasn't seen the movie, that it's already kind of predisposed to maybe not liking it, and then maybe it changes a little bit because the filmmaker said, hey, go in with an open mind. So far, it all looked like such a good story, and then the internet fucked it up.
So basically, he was implying that his mind was obviously a bit different due to his youth.
I mean, he's older than us right now, and I'm sure that he watches the movie and he has the same, reactions, in general that someone does right now, like living in America in the year 2018. You're like, oh, maybe I should have phrased that differently, or oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, or whatever. But
it's not nothing that I personally took vicious offense to. There were things I would have changed at the same time. A movie like this is not something you can make today without a little bit of blowback from some people.
Right. And the thing is, like, I'm fully aware that I'm not, I'm not a lesbian. And
that's the thing. Yeah, I think obviously if I was of certain groups or persuasions, I would have a much more vicious outrage to some of the things.
How do you know that, lesbians all across the world watch Chasing Amy? They watch that scene where, like, the group of lesbians is there and they're like, he got it.
Oh my God, the secret's out.
How did he know? Who told?
All right, so who did not like this movie? Out of the 12%, what you got for us?
Okay, I got a few quotes, a few rotten quotes. Edward Guthman from the San Francisco Chronicle says, lacks insight and finesse and feels like a bold-faced Rorschach for Smith's own hang-ups.
Okay.
Eric Brace from the Washington Post, he gets nasty. He says, can a script exploring some truly deep questions about human sexuality and emotions be any shoddier and wooden? Why will Miramax continue to fund one of the worst directors in the business?
Good God.
Don't stay tuned. Well, fine, Eric Brace. Fine. I won't stay tuned to your reviews.
That's not disliking a movie. That's trying to take away someone's livelihood.
Yeah, that seems hateful. Rob Gonzalez from eFilmCritic.com says the plot and dialogue play too much as if Smith is reenacting past romantic squabbles he's had and rewriting them too. Well, I think he's on the record saying that that kind of is what happened. The hilarious Carly Kokorek from Common Sense Media says, dated romantic comedy, wrong for all kids.
Yeah.
Lady, I'm pretty sure it's rated R.
Yeah.
Paul Tatara from CNN.com says, there's a lot of frank conversation about the technical aspects of sex between women, but Holden and Banky are written more like sniggering 8th graders than inquisitive adults. I think that's part of their charm.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Garth Franklin from Dark Horizons says, the Australian DVD release version of this film is deplorable.
Was it the quality? Where like
the extras were like really
did they have to
lacking.
dub over? Did they not pay for the soundtrack, so they had to dub it over? Yeah, there was no gag reel.
Yeah, it's all elevator music.
To the point of the previous one about the snickering 8th graders, for parts of this movie, not all of it, but for parts of it, it definitely does paint females as smarter and more mature than males.
But that's fine. I mean, I've heard...
Which is not... that's not an incorrect thing in the real world at all.
Right. I'm perfectly okay with just... I mean, now that we're in real talk, like, the character Banky is...
We can open up now.
Yeah, I love Jason Lee's performance. I love the character. Yeah, of course, he's meant to be an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of his stand-up specials, Kevin Smith kind of answers. There's a girl that comes up and asks him what... she kind of like puts him on the spot about the movie, and he's like, because of everything that happens in the movie, don't you think that you're actually kind of like saying that, yes, all a lesbian needs is some good deep dicking, and then that'll turn her, right? And Smith is like, well, really, the person that says that is Banky, and Banky's an idiot.
Yeah.
So you really shouldn't take what he's saying as something that's smart or insightful. And I think my one problem with the movie where I feel that it feels dated is just like the sexual politics have come such a long way since then. Everybody's mind is blown by the fact that this girl was not, that she'd had sex with other people before, with other men, with men in general, I guess. And just then the idea of like that Affleck has to ask her, why me? These days, it feels like that's not a question you even ask. It's like, well, you have bisexual people all over the world.
Yeah.
It's like, it just happens. But I think that, I don't think it's just telling on, the filmmaker side. It's just that the time when he made the movie, I think the 90s obviously were different.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
That the time frame on our president hadn't been impeached yet for getting a blowy. So, yeah, it's a lot of a different time.
Oh, that was... more innocent
back in
times.
the days when we just had to worry about our president getting a beach.
Yeah. Like I said, as if I need to repeat it, I'm not a lesbian, so of course I don't know how offensive that could be, where you finally see somebody that's established as being someone like you, and then halfway through the movie she makes a turn because a guy just played it right.
And also, yeah, I'm not...
You're not a lesbian?
I'm not a lesbian. I'm not gay. I can't speak to that. That's where it gets kind of tricky. I'm a white man. I'm the most privileged in the world. So acting like I have, can relate to any of that's a bit silly. But I would be curious, or I was curious, and just kind of watching it through my fingers side-eyed, that speech she gives about kind of... Because there are people like that in the world. I've met plenty of them that aren't bound by gender. They're just looking for love in whatever form it may take. But the movie presents her very clearly as gay for a while. So.
I think that's the problem. But I think that it would be more of a problem if it was her movie. If we had been following her POV, and then suddenly the trick is that, oh, well, no, she was not gay. She just thought she was.
It's the Joker and the Killing Joke. Just the origin story
right.
warps throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, I think she does a pretty good job of explaining how she comes to choose Affleck after being with girls for a long time. What her speech makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just that unfortunately now these days, there's that other argument when you're like, well, it is a choice, and then that's when it wanders into like dangerous waters.
Yeah.
Like all those parents that are intolerant of their kids because they're like, oh, well, it's just a phase, and you could just choose to like a guy, can easily read into this scene. I'm like, see?
Not Renee Zellweger did it.
She, you know,
Now
you don't
she's
have-
with Batman.
and that was Affleck before Batman. That was Affleck when he was self-conscious about taking his shirt off.
Joey Lauren Adams, who was Kevin Smith's girlfriend at the time he wrote this. Also, the only thing I knew her from was not Empire Records. Dazed and Confused. Do you think the fact that she looked so much like Renee Zellweger hurt her ability to get work?
You know, that's funny because I actually wrote that down as something
really?
that, yeah, I was like, is that what happened? Like, there can only be one. And
Like the Highlander.
yeah, Zellweger was the winning Highlander. I mean, it could be, it's like Skeet Ulrich and Johnny Depp. Like, I know I brought it up before.
Yeah,
where like
yeah.
Ulrich was supposed to be the next Johnny Depp, and then Johnny Depp,
Just came back to be Johnny Depp.
he was like, I'm still here.
Yeah. Which that shows you how weird things are in Hollywood, and to have that pop into our heads and be like, yeah, that's probably what happened,
Because that makes perfect sense.
yeah, because she's really good in this, and everything else I've seen her in, she's good in. Her, like I said in the first portion, I do think it betrays her character when she has like those two defining moments where she stands up for herself just to end up
It's,
coddling to Affleck.
It now I see it like as very weakening. I remember when I first watched this movie, and I've seen this movie so many times. I mean,
This was my first time. I don't know if we mentioned that in the first portion, but this was my first time seeing this.
yeah, I've seen it so many times. I watched it on video. Obviously, this didn't open in Peru.
Yeah.
But it was the first Kevin Smith movie
It's
that I
called
actually
Finding
watched.
Amy.
Where is Amy?
Where is Amy?
I watched it and I loved it, and then I remember trying to show it to as many people as I could, and nobody really cared for it anywhere near as much as I did. It worked for me a lot better than it did now, and I still like it a lot. I still think it has like a lot of good stuff in it, but yes, like giving her like those empowering moments and then diminishing them by not letting them stay at least a little longer. I understand you're telling a
literally
love
the first
story,
one,
but
like, yeah, it's like 10 seconds.
right, and
Yeah.
it's so good too because she tells him off in such a good way, very clear, and she's right on every little thing she says. And then she goes back to him. And maybe if I was a little more invested in the relationship, but I wasn't kidding in Contrarians Corner, I don't really think that Affleck is such a catch in this movie. I mean, he's just a dude, and
He's a struggling comic book artist.
right. I mean, okay, so he looks like Ben Affleck at the time. So, but that's really superficial. If the only reason she runs back to him is just because he looks like Ben Affleck, right? So she paints it like they have this connection, but I never really felt that they go and play at that amusement park or whatever.
Oh, the arcade.
Yeah, the arcade. But it's like I don't know. I liked it a lot more when she was just standing up to him and calling him out on his shit and just saying, "Well, no."
'Cause, yeah, you're right. After he like says, "I'm in love with you," everything she says is completely accurate. Like
It's
how
on
unfair-
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good.
And I'm not saying I understand you're telling a love story. I'm not saying that they couldn't get together after, but give her some room to just at least enjoy that triumph.
Use that for the 1 year later.
Right, exactly, dude. Oh my god, now I want to watch that movie. You have one. She comes back, and it's like they're doing different comic books or whatever. I don't know, just to revisit those characters a year later while there's still unresolved stuff. I mean, I guess we kind of do that in the epilogue, but by then it's that the ship has sailed.
We're done. Pacing isn't an issue. It's too long. There's shit in here that could have been easily cut down.
Yeah, I think
he definitely wants to be Tarantino in a lot of this.
But I don't mind. I think that it's one of the things where if you enjoy Kevin Smith's dialogue, then this is fine. Like if you enjoy Tarantino dialogue, if you enjoy Woody Allen's dialogue,
fair.
it's just like just bring it. As
Yeah.
long as you have somebody that can perform it, and I think Jason Lee is so good delivering anything that they throw at him. Hooper is also great.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame. I have never seen him in anything else, but I think he's the MVP here.
Dwight Ewell, I think is his name. I probably butchered it multiple times.
He has a cameo in Jay and Silent Bob that's playing Hooper. I think
okay.
He shows up like at the very end. He's dating Banky, actually.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great in this. All the characters are written well. There's just plots of the story or points of the story, excuse me, like I said, I pointed out were I wish would have been changed. As far as the problematic nature of the movie, I mean, anything like that's going to age poorly. Like if we're going to keep evolving as a society, a lot of times things like that are going to age poorly.
Right, you're going to be like, I can't believe that once upon a time this was
Birth of a Nation.
Well, even I was talking about Gone with the Wind with a friend a couple days ago, and we brought it up in the podcast before, and I haven't seen it, but yeah, they were telling me about it, and I was like, yeah, I mean that's a story that plays very differently now than it would before, and that doesn't mean it's not a good movie.
No,
couldn't tell you because I haven't seen it, but
and well, like in cases like this, yeah, if some tomorrow was using some of the dialogue that this was, it'd be like, it's probably not the best idea in the world, but given the time frame of it and everything. It's not to say that it couldn't have been handled differently, but even the director and writer himself points out, hey, it was in a different mindset at the time. So
no, but even I think that they called out Banky at least twice in the movie. Ben Affleck does, and I like that it's addressed at least.
It is, and it's not coming from a place of just outright bigotry.
Right, he's just like Banky even makes that case that it's very relatable, where he's like, who cares? I'm in the comfort of my own home. Nobody can hear me. I can say whatever I want. And, it's like, yeah, you're saying horrible things, but I see your point.
Mm-hmm.
I understand your frustration. Because Affleck is being like the PC police just because he has a hard-on for this girl.
Yeah.
So,
Affleck's really good in this. Yeah, for all of the things that I usually consider failings is the wrong word, but
shortcomings.
Shortcomings, things that turn me off about Kevin Smith movies were all present here, but somehow it pulled it all off. And I think I really wanted to hate the Kevin Smith giving the Chasing Amy story.
It's really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's great.
I was like, man, I really want to dislike this right now because it is like, in a sense, to the plot, it's like the solution, like Lady in the Water when M. Night Shyamalan saves the day type of thing.
Except that it isn't. I think that that's also part of what makes it awesome, that he inspires Affleck to do the wrong thing.
Yes, it was. I could see some people finding it a huge misfire that the conclusion is him proposing a three-way, but it basically just shows how stupid and how he completely misread all of the situation.
Exactly. It was not going to happen. I mean, he was not ready to date that kind of girl, but it's funny because, you're speaking of society changing, whatever. It's like we change ourselves. When I watched that movie, even as much as I loved it, I hated the ending. To me, it felt like what I said in Contrarians Corner. I was like, wow, what a way to drop the ball. Yeah. What a way to set things up and then come up with a really stupid
They should have just panned out and had Paul Giamatti smiling and shaking his head.
And now I really like it. I really appreciate it. I guess
I didn't like the ending.
Really? You didn't like that he proposes that?
No, the 1 year later part.
Oh, well, yeah. The 1 year later, it's a little too much to me.
For all intents and purposes, they could have just been rolling the credits over that.
Yeah, and well, the other thing is that, and maybe this is because I'm not a member of the LGBT community, but to me, the relationship between Affleck, between Holden and Banky, that's the one that I really like. And, the one that I think I can buy into more. Mm-hmm. The whole thing with Alyssa, there's so much artifice in it that I understand what's going for and I enjoyed it well enough. But to me, the friendship being tested by some dude dating somebody that the other guy doesn't like.
Yeah.
I think that probably is more relatable, and their characters just felt more lived in. I mean, Alyssa, in a way, she's kind of like the manic pixie dream lesbian.
Yeah.
She comes in and she's full of energy and she's going to explain it to you. There was the joke about like Kevin Smith's Lesbians for Dummies. I mean, it is kind of, there are a couple scenes where Alyssa just sits them down and explains how being a lesbian works. Mm-hmm. And that felt a little, almost like it was too much. Yeah. I understand that for the times where maybe America needed to hear it, but
it does come across, especially now, heavy-handed. That like,
right,
straight man was like, "All right, so this is how it's done."
Right, where he was just, it's such an alien concept to both of them that you can have sex even if there's not a dick involved.
Yeah,
really, but I guess back then in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think I'd know because I lived it, but I don't know.
I think when I was young, like teenager, I probably was like, how does that even work? But at the same time,
I mean, I guess
eventually I figured it out.
Well, I mean, I was just thinking, did Affleck never watch porn? And Banky obviously has. He's into like women with horses and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just seemed like they were so naive and just ignorant about that aspect of sexuality. And but their friendship, it just feels very real. And so to me, when you get to the very end, I love that they don't even talk to each other, that they just, it's a little too cutesy maybe with the with the
Sign language.
The sign language, but I get it.
I'll be right here, Elliot.
But the plan, the dumb three-way plan, I think that when I was young, I really wanted Affleck to win. I wanted him to get it together, and I wanted the story to.
I did not
have
know
a
how
happy
this
ending.
ended, so I was like fearing that was going to happen, and I was going to just be like, "Oh, well, this movie's a whole fucking waste of time."
Yeah,
But
to
it's
me,
not.
Oh no, to me it was just. I can't believe that he's being so dumb, and it would annoy me that they made his character so dumb. And now I just love it. I think it's one of the best things in the movie that he comes up with. He sits them down like he's about to reveal this master genius plan.
And it just again, like I was glad she slapped him, because then when he actually reveals what he's doing, it's like the fucking temerity for you to like pull these people together to propose this fucking asinine.
Once again, she tells him what's what very clearly, and once again she's on point. I am not your whore.
Yeah.
Not just that, but she also says, I am hurt that you'd be willing to share me, and I would never share you.
And then also just like the fact that you even think this means you don't understand me or
Right.
our relationship
It's just,
at all.
She has to spell it out for him. It's just so good.
I was kind of bummed that at the 1 year later epilogue, he wasn't clean shaven and just walked right onto the set of Armageddon after
Right.
that.
He comes in. It's a comic book convention, so he's just dressed as an astronaut. It could have happened.
And then Ethan Suplee we forgot to mention him in the first portion.
Not
but
Chris Farley.
well, I just call him Butterfly Effect because that was probably what he was most known for.
Oh, I just know him from Kevin Smith movies. I think he's in Mallrats.
He was also on Boy Meets World.
Haven't seen Boy Meets World.
Okay. I've never revisited it. I can't imagine it holding up too well. If it does, let us know. Maybe I'll go back and check it out. But yeah, enjoyed it. Glad I can put it on the shelf with the other Criterions. Also, in the life of Julio Oliveira, today he learned that the Criterions are numbered.
Learn a new thing every day. You know what I'm doing as soon as I'm getting home.
Putting them in numerical order.
I don't know about that. I'm gonna look and see what's the lowest number I have and what's the highest number I have.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna keep them alphabetical.
That would
How
drive
do
me
you
crazy.
how do you find? I mean, not that I have that many Criterions. I mean, I have maybe like a shelf full, but it's like if you're looking for something, how are you gonna remember what number it is?
No, but
Okay, then that's
I
the whole
have to-
point.
I need my Criterion selection or my display to be as pompous as possible. Which is I have a pretty good job of it because I have those film cans and then an old projector as like the bookends for it. So no, it would just drive me crazy if I saw those numbers hopping around.
Well, obviously, I didn't even see the numbers.
Yes,
So
correct.
now I'm damaged.
You're gonna notice it. You're just gonna be sitting in your living room and your eyes are gonna wander and be like, "God damn it, Alex."
I'm just gonna wide them out.
But yeah, I mean, what is the purpose of Criterion? To preserve film that's culturally and historically significant. So it's a lot more now than it was back then, because I think this one was still in the single digit or double digits. I could see where this good art house flick like this, and especially I don't know if it ever got a traditional release either. That happens with a lot of independent movies. The Criterion picks it up just so they can have DVD distribution.
Oh, that's cool.
That was Blue is the Warmest Color. It wouldn't have gotten any distribution in America unless Criterion picked it up.
Because we may have come a long way, but not that long.
That would be a good double feature. This lesbians for dummies, lesbians for French dummies.
It's like all those things that Alyssa Jones talked about in Chasing Amy. Now you're gonna see them.
In graphic detail,
Glorious.
I don't know if it's
Technicolor.
high definition, 4K. I think I told you I went back and rewatched that recently. God, that's a good movie, but good God, I forgot
3 hours.
Well, no. Well, I watched it in 2 parts, so that was fine. But the sex scene, I fucking forgot how explicit it is. Like, I remember how explicit it is, and then I saw it, and I was like, there's some porn that's not this explicit.
You're like, surely I'm misremembering. I'm making it out to be bigger than
Yeah,
it was.
exactly. And, like, not kidding at all. I was by myself watching it, and it was, like, making me feel impure, so I just had to skip through the rest of the sex
You
scene.
were like Ben Affleck in this movie. You
Yeah.
were like,
Well, because I had it on, like, with sound turned up like I do with movies and stuff, and I was just like, oh, God, a neighbor's going to walk by or something. Not the porn headphones that you usually rock. But
Can I high five you, sir? Whatever's going on there, I want in.
back to Chasing Amy. The length, and that's, if this is your first time listening, it's not going to be the last time you hear me talk about length in movies. My friends call it the Mattis rule: 1 second over 90 minutes, and you're in rough territory there. But yeah, for someone who not too hot on Clerks, really don't like Dogma, and I'm trying to think of anything else Kevin Smith that I've seen.
Jay and Silent Bob.
No, I like threw in the towel after Dogma. I don't know if I've seen anything he's done since then.
Clerks 2.
No.
And you said you hadn't seen Red State, which might be my second favorite.
That has John Goodman in it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And then,
But he didn't write that.
He did.
No, he didn't write the one we were talking about earlier.
Cop Out, which it's the only one I haven't seen of his. It's kind of weird. And I love Kevin Smith. I may not love all his movies, and definitely my relationship with his filmography has changed as I've changed, I guess, but I mean, I tweeted, that's the tweet that he liked when I said that when I was going to film school, he was the filmmaker that I looked up to, because it was just this guy that grabbed a bunch of credit cards and made a movie.
Yep.
And the movie was good enough that it got picked up, and then he developed a career from that. And I was like, who doesn't want to do that? And I mean, this sounds like a backhanded compliment, right? Because you're like, oh, I watch Clerks, I can do that. But the truth is, like, no, you can't, because otherwise everybody else will be doing it. It takes balls to do it. It takes a certain talent. When you watch Clerks, and we were talking about this before we started watching Chasing Amy, I told you it's a rough watch if you watch it right now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really funny stuff. There's just something that catches your eye, and when you put it in the context of, wow, this guy, this was his first movie. He hadn't even finished film school and he did this. It's pretty awe-inspiring. And then, Mallrats, I think it gets a bad rap. If you're a comic book fan, you kind of love Mallrats just because it's a movie about comic book geeks. But on its own, it's also just kind of like a fun comedy. If you hear Kevin Smith talking about it and what he was going for as far as like, oh, it's just like an 80s raunchy comedy, then, you kind of see where he was going. And, Chasing Amy, Dogma. I think that, you know what? He did that one with Seth Rogen and Elizabeth Banks. I know Eddie hates it.
Oh, Zach and Miri make a porno.
Yeah.
I did see that. I'm going to side with Eddie on that one as well.
I don't hate it. I think that I think the thing he said about that one was that by then Judd Apatow was making that kind of movie much better than he could. And I was like, wow, that's refreshingly honest. I like it fine. But
it does have that immortal line that you and I joke about. Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker weren't having no sex in the Star Wars.
Star Wars. I think that beyond it being an inspirational thing, I watched Red State. I don't know if you remember, like, the whole thing with Red State when he made it, and then it was a big deal. He was going to announce, I think he was going to announce who was going to distribute it or something, and then it was all a stunt, and he ended up saying, no, I'm distributing it myself, because fuck the critics and fuck everybody or whatever, and people threw a fit. Like,
I don't remember that.
It was so funny because in what he did is he took the movie on a tour and played it at theaters or in America because he can afford to do that.
Yeah.
and then it just went on the regular, I guess, DVD whatever release, and it made a stop in Austin. I watched it at Paramount. He did a Q&A after, and he was so excited and talking about, like, this is what I'm doing with this movie, and this is what I'm going to do with the next one, and talking about the podcasts, because he went on to build his podcast empire and all this stuff. And the entire time I was like, okay, even if I don't like movies that he's done, I didn't really care for Tusk. Definitely didn't care for the other one he did with his daughter and Johnny Depp's daughter, Yoga Hosers or whatever. I think that a lot of people enjoyed it. It's aimed at a very specific demographic. It's not me. But he's still doing stuff. And to me, just, I think that even when I don't like Kevin Smith movies, I like Kevin Smith.
Yeah, I like Kevin Smith also. He was in Southland Tales, so that's usually good criteria.
Well,
he's not, I don't, like I said, I really don't like Dogma, but with him, it's never been, I've never watched a movie he's made and left it with a lowered opinion or anger or any type of ill will towards him, because he has a clear idea what he wants to do, but he also doesn't do it for everybody, and he also doesn't think it should be for everybody.
Well, I think he's very humble about just what he is as a filmmaker, and you can see the evolution. That's the thing. Maybe that's part of why I don't really care for that last one, the Yoga Hosers, because it didn't feel like he was moving. It just felt like him fucking around, and that's fine. You can fuck around if you want to. You're Kevin Smith. You can do whatever you want. You're ready. You made Chasing Amy. You made Red State. You can do whatever you want. But I find him as most exciting when he's trying new stuff. And that run that he had where he went from Clerks to Mallrats to Chasing Amy to Dogma to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. It was like, wow, we're like seeing his career happening. That was like a contemporary in a way.
I've never left a movie of his with feelings like I have leaving a Judd Apatow or a Nicholas Wendig Refn film or anything like that. I think with him, the main thing is, like I said, I just kind of stayed away from it because a couple of them burned me pretty bad. But yeah, this was really good. It was definitely lived up to the hype in terms of things I've heard over the past decade or so of talking about Kevin Smith movies.
What's your letter grade?
Probably like a B+.
I think I'm giving it like a 4-star out of 5.
No, yeah, it was really, really good. Definitely something I'll be excited to go back and revisit. Like I did with Man on the Moon. We went back, and I think I was just enchanted by a lot of it the first time. It's a very clunky movie, but the performances are really good.
Did you change your rating? I don't even remember what you gave it. I think you gave it like a B-.
Yeah, I would still give it like a C+, B-. Because while there's a lot of good in there, it's really disjointed and clunky.
I stick by my 4 stars on that one.
That's fine.
You know why?
This is what you get on the Contrarians.
It's what
heated debates.
It's what Andy would have wanted.
Classic Andy.
Classic Andy.
All right. So we've chased Amy.
We did. We caught her.
We did.
And then we let her slip away.
We'll be moving on to the Summer of Travolta. What's kicking us off on that? It's Battlefield Earth, right?
Battlefield Earth. We're starting at the very bottom.
Dear God Almighty. I bet, I'll go to the store to get it, and they'll pay me to take it.
Well, first
it's like an attempted Rodney Dangerfield one-liner.
They're gonna run a background check on you first, just to make sure that everything is okay. Who is this guy? It's like when you buy Catcher in the Rye. It says a red flag.
Put him on the National Registry.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, we'll move along here to, as we always do, we'll do plugs or any other things that we have to mention.
I mentioned that I had some feedback, but actually, if you have a plug, go for it, because I need to look that up first. The feedback.
Only real plug is kind of a throwback to this time last year when we did a review of the pilot of Glow, the Netflix series. I've actually finally gotten farther and pretty deep into the actual series, and God, it's good.
How far into it are you?
About to finish the first season. So yeah, really good. Mark Maron's fantastic in it, and I'm still working through the 3rd season of Love, which I absolutely adore that show.
It keeps showing up on my.
So good. You didn't watch any of it, have you?
I watched a couple more episodes. I think I made it to like episode 4.
Or the first season?
Oh, the first season. Oh wait, no, not Love. I was talking about Glow.
Glow. Okay.
Yeah, no, Love. It's on hold. It's on the queue.
Mm-hmm.
I like Britta from Community.
Oh yeah, she's excellent in it. And then my annual tradition, I finally got to season 8 of The Office, because The Office is what I fall asleep to every night, and finally got to season 8, and it literally, I get to the same episode every time and just reset it.
Which one is it?
The one that starts with Kevin talking, skipping words. It's just like, okay, this, and our buddy Eddie has been in touch with me because and he agreed, the middle seasons, Stanley, Creed, and Kevin, before they made their characters caricatures of themselves, God, they were fucking perfect.
Did you finish? I'm guessing you haven't finished Breaking Bad yet.
No, that got a hard pause there for a little while, but I need to get back on that. I think I'm in the episode 3 of the 5th season, so just a little bit left. Yeah, but no, my brain's fried after New Orleans, so I'm just trying to just ease back into things.
Okay, so I have some catch and release feedback from listener Mandy Taylor.
Excellent.
Because she said that she had thoughts, and I was like, please
share.
Well, I told her, and she actually sent me this before listening to the episode. This was just
what's her name?
Mandy Taylor.
Is this a friend of yours?
Yes.
Okay.
She said, well, she started off the wrong foot because she said that she fell hard for Sam Jaeger since she saw it for the first time, and to us, obviously, Sam Jaeger was the least remarkable thing in that movie.
Was that not Scott Speedman?
Not Scott Speedman. So well, I guess that sets you off that we're not going to see eye to eye when it comes to this movie.
Yeah.
But actually, I think she likes it. She likes it about as much as we do, but she had some very specific thoughts. She said, My primary objection is to all the women who are not gray. That's a Jennifer Garner character. As a sweeping generalization. Mostly Maureen, the Juliette Lewis character, says she's a culmination of so many stereotypes that she's nearly a caricature. The only humanity, sympathy she manages is through Sam, the Kevin Smith character, and barely. She says the woman Fritz has bathroom sex with, she's just another weird idiot. Grady's mom is horrible, but at least manages to come around by the end. It's disappointing to see such cartoonish portrayals from a female writer and director. Which I guess is a fair point. I mean, I don't think it bothered us that much, but we did bring it up that, the grieving mom is the villain.
Yeah.
and what I said, my retort, and it's something that I brought up when we did the episode, was that Juliette Lewis playing that character gives it more depth than it had on the page. I think that if it wasn't Juliette Lewis, then it would be just a complete waste. Yeah. But because it's Juliette Lewis, you have a connection with her no matter what.
Mallory Knox.
It's Mallory. How can you not care?
I know. It's an interesting take on it, though.
Yeah, and then
a good movie.
she said that she felt that there was some chemistry lacking between Gray and Fritz. That's Timothy Olyphantastic. And she...
No one lacks chemistry with Timothy Olyphant.
She doesn't like the scene that I like and you don't. The Harvey Dent turn from Timothy Oliphant at the storage unit.
Oh God, yeah. No.
I like it, but she's like, that shouldn't pack. That didn't work, and that's the one that should pack the biggest punch. And then she said, some dialogue is so contrived and clunky, I can't believe it was delivered. The voiceover thoughts to Grady can be effective, but by the end, I don't believe what she's saying. You like the voiceover. You were like, I love Jennifer Garner when she does voiceover.
Yeah. I can see her point, but yeah, it worked for me.
Yeah, and then she said, lastly, I wanted the whole story set up to work where one of the main characters is totally absent. But by the end, I don't have a sense of who Grady was other than complicated. The voiceover suggests Gray only knew him when he was gone. I don't believe she has a clue. That's another fair point.
That's very fair.
Yeah. But then she goes on and says that, this is the third time that she's watched it.
Oh,
so
wow.
she's under its spell.
Grizzled vet, yeah.
She's seen it more times than I have.
Which is what, 2?
2.
I'm trailing behind here. I need to catch up.
Yeah, I need 2 more watches. Alternate with Man on the Moon and episodes of Breaking Bad.
There you go.
And then I don't really have them like right here in front of me, but the Tank Girl response was like, from too many people, like I did not expect so many people to say like, well, that's a fun movie. And I was like, no, it wasn't. I was excruciating to sit through.
Yeah.
But guy that did our logo, Hans, he was like, that's a fun movie. I understand it's not for everybody, but it's fun. I want to say no.
Who's it for?
And then Billy from We Watch a Thing, the Australian podcast, he was also like, oh yeah, Tank Girl, that was great. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. I was like,
You might not like what we have to say.
Yeah.
No, that was not good. That was one of those, this 2 hours, I mean, there were some parts I would have cut down, but this 2 hours flew by. Tank Girl was like, what, like,
it felt like
100 minutes, and it felt like Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
We had the
without
orchestral intermission.
That was a rough one, but I mean, that's fine. You can like the movies you want. That's great.
That's the whole point of this thing we do.
Now, as far as plugs, I've been watching a lot of movies lately that normally I wouldn't watch. So I think it's kind of weird that you're the wrestling fan, but I'm the one that's watched the latest Rock movie and the latest John Cena movie.
Oh, yeah?
So I didn't just watch Rampage earlier today. Last week I watched Blockers.
I heard it was pretty good.
It's definitely better than I expected. I watched A Quiet Place, which is great. And then I just needed something to just detox after that.
Palate cleanser.
Exactly. It was like a dumb, raunchy comedy with your favorite Leslie Mann.
All right.
John Cena, Ike Barinholtz.
I do like Ike, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a little bit like, to me, it felt a little bit like American Pie for this generation. Because I don't know if you saw the trailer, but it's...
Yeah, it seems pretty like sophomoric, raunchy humor.
It has a lot more heart than that. But I guess the flip side is
a lot more heart than American Pie.
You'd be surprised.
I don't know. Jason Biggs.
Well, so it doesn't have Eugene Levy, but it has. So it's 3 girls now, and 3 girls are determined to get laid on prom night, and then the parents, which are John Cena, Ike Barinholtz, and Leslie Mann, find out, and then they're going to cock block them. So they're trying to stop it from happening, and but what makes it, to me, I think what made it stand out at the end is that the movie comes to this, through the parents, it comes to this realization that, so what if they get laid? You know, it's like, it's just sex, and at least one of them is going to have sex. The one that ends up having sex, spoiler alert, is, you know, she's having it with somebody that she actually cares for, you know, and it was kind of refreshing because your traditional movie would just demonize sex with anybody that you're not engaged to be married or something.
Or it would have Dan Foger going, sex!
Exactly, yeah. And this was just like a very casual. I mean, they have conversations about how sex is a big deal, but at the same time, it's not like, wow, you stupid whore, why are you having sex on prom night? You know, it's just like, this is the world we live in now, and parents need to catch up, sort of thing.
Nice.
And John Cena is just hilarious.
Good.
It wasn't just, did you ever watch Trainwreck? No. I mean, he has just a couple scenes in Trainwreck, and he's pretty funny. And here, he has a much bigger role, and he's funny again. So I think he's just proven his comedic chops.
I'm glad to hear it. John's on a rough streak right now, losing his fiance. So,
well, you know, he has all that blockers money,
all the peace and love. He was a lot smarter this time around. His first wife cleaned him out. They had this reality show about him and his wife, and the one where they moved in together. He was like waiting at the door with like a 75-page legal document she had to sign before she could move in. So he'll be all right. He'll have that blockers money.
That's out of a romantic comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
I also watched Ready Player One. I would say too long. It would just kill you. You would die of old age watching Ready Player One.
Is that the
Spielberg movie? Yeah,
overly pandering.
I think it wouldn't be as disappointing if it was a different director. But it's
one of those movies that's like, it's okay, but since the Spielberg, it's
right. It's
sucks.
like, really, why? Yeah. You know. And then I also watched Isle of Dogs from our beloved Wes Anderson.
His return to the animated medium.
It was a weird experience. I loved it for 2/3 of it. Then it gets to the third act, and it just completely lost me. So I have to reluctantly say that Fantastic Mr. Fox is better, even though the first 2/3 are the best Wes Anderson stuff I've ever seen.
Wow.
I loved it so much. I connected to it in a way that I haven't connected to anything else. And then it just goes in a direction that I didn't care for. And so...
You know how I am. I love my Criterions, as we've already talked about on this. I was at Goodwill, and they had the Criterion for Royal Tenenbaums for $3. And I was just like...
You looked around to see if anybody was watching.
Yeah, and it was one of those, I picked it up, put it down, picked it up, and then just thought better of it and put it down and left.
Damn you to hell, Alex.
Couldn't do it, homie.
It's one of his better movies.
I already have 2 of his movies in my Criterion collection.
But they're not the Royal Tenenbaums.
Touche. God, I don't like that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that you just, I didn't think that you were a fan, but I didn't realize that you don't like it.
No. Yeah. I like Gene Hackman in it. I mean, and the stories of how mean he was to Wes Anderson are also awesome. Here nor there. We're moving on up. New logo, new specs, all that good stuff. Same old assholes here.
I mean, yeah, everything will change, but we can't. We're too old to change.
We're too old for that shit.
I'll get a haircut every now and then.
But the temperature's rising. And the summer of Travolta is upon us.
It's upon us. I'm not going to lie. Like, some real talk within real talk. I'm a little nervous. This is the most we've hyped anything.
And it's also the biggest commitment we've made to anything.
That too. I'm trying not to think about it, but it's just like the pace at which we're going to crank out these episodes.
And the amount of Travolta that we're going to be ingesting.
Right. Can you OD on Travolta? Yeah. We're going to find out.
We're going to test it.
Yes.
But for now, we appreciate, as always, you guys listening. If you're listening on iTunes, if you could, leave us a 5-star rating, a review, subscribe. It really helps the algorithm and get our podcast out there more. SoundCloud, same thing. Or just on Twitter, RT, like it, do the thing.
Tell your buddies.
Yeah.
If you like our intro and outro music, that's from...
Festive Years.
The Festive Years. I can't believe I had to look at you like the Festive Years from their album.
Don't Let Me Use You.
See, I have my phone turned off, so I can't read it anymore. Yeah. But yeah, they're
always gracious enough to provide us with their music.
Yeah, and like I said, if you like our logo, that's from Hans Rothgieser. I don't know that he'll design your logo, but you know, listen to his podcast, Nacion Combi, if you speak Spanish, or if you need to practice your Spanish, you want to catch up Peruvian current events. It's a lot going on there, right? I mean, you think if I had to weigh in, you know, what's worse, are living under Trump as a president or living under whatever the fuck's going on in Peru, I don't know. It's like it changes from day to day.
The jury's still out.
Yeah.
But for today, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. And we will see you next time for the beginning of the Summer of Travolta.
It will be...
Oh, my God.
smoldering experience.
The summer of 1999. Back when you blew my mind and told me secrets in the dark. I'm just fine. Thanks for asking. I just can't quite get by. That time in 1999. The summer of 1999. The summer of 1999. That summer of 1999. That summer of 1999.
Hey guys, do you have a screenplay you need feedback on? Well, you are in luck. I, Julio, the half of the Contrarians that speaks with an accent, I'm doing official screenplay coverage now, and if you're a listener of the show, you'll get a discount. Just email wearethecontrarians@gmail.com and tell us which is your favorite episode of the podcast and why. Turnaround is about 2 weeks, and you'll get detailed notes that are even more thorough than what we do in the show, although it'll also be less funny. For more information, email wearethecontrarians@gmail.com or visit our website, wearethecontrarians.com, and click on the Julio Reads Your Scripts link.
Your voice is beautiful.